Hi everyone, good evening. Hope you all are doing well. And as you all know, today we are here for the beautiful event of game development. Let's understand game development. And for this event, we have Akshay Gol with us. He's a senior game developer at Monadical. Welcome, Akshay. Thank you for accepting our invite. Welcome to Squad Growth. How are you doing?
I'm really happy to be here. So let's start.
Yes, yes, we can start.
All right, sweet. So now that I can't see any of you like attending, so just feel free to just post your questions that you have, and I'm sure Shaurya will just let me know. It's so I'll start by introducing myself. Thanks so much for mentioning uh, like my current role and everything. But I started making games back in 2014. Like right out of my 12th grade, I started tinkering with game engines and trying to build my own levels and games. So that passion kind of stuck with me, and I started taking part in like game jams. Game jams are more like hackathons, like 2 day events where you have to just finish a game in 2 days. So I started taking part in that, won a few competitions around, and started working in games, which is like a dream for many, and it was mine as well. So yeah, that's a bit about me. Currently, I'm working at Monadical, which is a company based in Montreal. We're into game outsourcing, and we're working on an MMO right now, something like League of Legends or Dota. So I'm gonna start from the very basics because I'm not sure like what the experience level of everyone is. So I'm gonna tell you a brief about game development. Like what is game development? How is it different from software development or like any other fields of engineering? So game development, in my opinion, is creating a sort of a virtual world where players come in and um, just enjoy playing with the rules of that world, right? And when you're making games, there's essentially three major segments that like or major sections that come into play, major roles. So one is programming. So a programmer would write the code to define the functionality of the game. A game designer who would design the rules of the game. So if you played something like Halo, so there's actually a lot of game designers working on like AAA projects where each one has like a set role of like designing a gun that feels good to use, right? Things like that. So, and a game designer's job is to define the rules. Like it's not at all to create art assets or anything. It's essentially just creating a document which lays down what are the features and what is the world gonna feel like, what is it gonna be like, and just defining the vision of the project, right? And the third section is art, right? So every game that you see is like the first thing that you see is the art. So there's 3D art, there's 2D art. So depending on that, there's like different kinds of artists who work on a game. Now, depending on what your preference is, like I'm personally a designer and a programmer. Design is something that came naturally to me, and programming is something that I had to work for. But whatever your natural inclinations are, I think you can explore it further. So I'm gonna talk briefly about like game design, game programming, and game art. Like just go a bit more in depth. So when we talk about game design, right? So in game design, we are talking about the rules of the game. Now, how do you come up with the rules of the game? There's a lot of different tool sets available for you where so one of the frameworks which is very popular is called the MD framework, right? So it's called mechanics, dynamics, and aesthetics. So once you define these three, you can pretty much define the game. So mechanics are what can a player do in the game. Now let's take a very simple example of Mario Brothers, right? So Mario can jump around, he can stomp on Goombas, he can shoot fireballs if he gets the power up, he can collect coins and so on. So all of these are like little mechanics, right? Now dynamics are the enemies or the obstacles that are in place. So a game is only fun because there's a challenge that the player has to solve. And the challenge does cannot stay monotonous. It has to either increase or like there should be a sort of a pacing in place, which game designers basically come up with after a lot of playtests. So playtest is very important when you're making a game, right? So that's one of the responsibilities of game designers, to sort of make sure that the pacing is right, the game feels good to play, the mechanics are like coherent with the world, right? So that's mechanics. Dynamics, again, like obstacles, enemies, anything that changes the world for you. Now, if it's a static world where Mario is just jumping around and just reaching the flag, it wouldn't be as fun, right? Like if there's no challenge of that death. So dynamics add that level of challenge and fun together. Aesthetics are the entire mood of the game. Now, again, taking the same example, let's say Super Mario World, right? So there's bricks. He's a plumber. We know he's a plumber. He's trying to save the princess. So this is like a narrative that's around. So narrative is part of aesthetics. The art, the look and feel is part of the aesthetics. The sound design is part of aesthetics. And it basically, so when you're thinking about aesthetics, think of it as the mood of your game, right? So what is the mood like? What is the player gonna feel when they play your game? So once you define these three, it pretty much defines your game. And yeah, so this is like one framework. There's multiple others that you can explore. And yeah, if you're interested, just try getting more books. There's one book which I've read in particular, which I really like. It's called Art of Game Design, like a lenses. Like it's about the different lenses, approach of lenses or something. It's called. Just check it out. It's quite interesting. All right, let's move on to game programming. And game programming is something that's very close to me. So I actually started out as a game programmer. Like that was pretty much the only skill I had. Rest everything I sort of picked up as I moved along. For game programming, it's quite straightforward. Like it's very similar to software development, except for the fact that the work culture will be much cooler. And yeah, so I would say like I would talk about the game engines. So there's just like you have like compilers and other kind of things that you use in software development. We have something called as a game engine. Now there's two prominent game engines in the industry right now which are being used. So one is called Unity, and the second one is called Unreal. You can definitely explore both. For beginners, I always recommend Unity because it's just very easy to get into. Like a lot of things are like provided for you. A game engine is basically a set of tools which are provided to make a game. So so that like you don't have to create everything from scratch, right? So animations, AI, your like objects, like how to handle the images and mechanics and all of that. So all of that is provided to you in a game engine. So Unity and Unreal are two game engines that I recommend, and Unity preferably for beginners. Right? Cool. So game art. Now, game art is not something that I know a lot about, but it's pretty like self-explanatory. There's multiple kinds of artists. There's environment artists, there's 3D artists, and there's like 2D artists, concept artists, and so on. Animators who are part of like the game art team. And if it's something that's interesting to you, I think you can literally just get a tablet and start painting digitally, make characters with transparent backgrounds and start using them in games, or just put them online so people can use. So that's something that you can do to sort of start out as a game artist. All right. Having said that, I'm gonna show a quick project that I had built a couple of months back as a 2-day game jam. So I'll just quickly show you how things are laid out in a game engine and what are the different things to look for and how did we even come up with this concept, right? So, all right. So the game is called Ephemeral. It's a narrative driven puzzle game, and I'll just quickly show you how it looks and plays. So this is how it looks like. The character can walk around. You can talk to this person, right? You can pick up stuff, collect it in your inventory, talk to people, and just essentially have to solve puzzles in this game, right? So a lot of like when I was starting out, I was always under the impression that every little pixel is drawn by itself and it's going to be very tedious, but it's not the case. It's actually very straightforward. The way it works is all of these little things, that all of the different images that you see are like different objects that you can move around. Like for example, this, right? Let's say this. I can move it around and place it anywhere I want. The player, for example. Now the player could walk, right? We could see that there was an animation. Now the way the animation was created was there's something called a sprite sheet. Yeah, so there's something called a sprite sheet where it's essentially just like different images of like the character walking. So like different snapshots of it, and when you play it together, it feels like the character's walking. Now we can trigger it based on certain keys and all of that, which is part of game programming, right? So if you look here, like it's essentially just playing the frames forward and back. So that's part of animation, and there's so to code, I can show you a quick little script. Sorry. So the programming languages used in Unity initially were like Foo and C Sharp and a type of JavaScript, but now only C Sharp is supported. So this is something that you'll have to learn, but it's actually very easy to pick up if you've learned C++, right? Very simple, like you've declared your variables, and I won't go into details with this because it's just a little tricky. But yeah, for example, like you want to trigger some player dialogue, right? Like you saw that when I went close to that female fox, there was this dialogue box that appeared. So this is how you sort of do it. Like you trigger it, and then if you go inside the trigger, you sort of see that, oh, okay, it's enabling an image and then putting text on and things like that. So that's how the flow of it works. Uh, yeah, I'll just stop sharing my screen now. All right. After this, like, there's some quick tips. Like, the main number one tip would be to just start taking part in game jams and competition, and start building like little game projects by yourself, so that you kind of get into the habit and try to figure it out. Like figure out what enjoy doing it. Yeah, and sure, yeah.
Hello. Yeah, there is some network issue, I guess. Like I can't hear you for a
Okay.
while.
Was
Five
that
seconds, I guess. I couldn't hear you for 5 seconds.
five? Oh, okay. I was just saying that let's just take questions now, unless
Okay.
there's anything else that you want to ask.
Yep, got it. So yeah, there are a couple of questions. And people, if you have more questions, put it in the message section. We're going to take all of your questions. So, do you play games? That's the
Yeah,
first
I mean,
question.
I mean, I can literally share my desktop right now, just filled with games.
Yeah. How you went to England?
So I just started applying on LinkedIn, and like there was this one company who was looking for a game developer at the time, and we just had a quick interview process, and that was it. Like, so what happens is like software development or like other sorts of like engineering medias, right? There's a lot of people who are looking for jobs, so it becomes really difficult. But game development is such a niche that if you're able to sort of like make them believe that you can get the work done, I think it's very easy for anyone to work outside.
Got it. There's another question. Can a single developer make a game for 10K people?
For 10K people, like 10,000 people.
Yes, 10,000. Like
Yeah, yeah,
can a
of
single
course.
developer can handle a lot of stuff at the same time.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. So I hope you don't mean like 10K multiplayer at the same time,
Hmm.
because that's difficult for even big studios. But of course you can make. Like, in fact, my first game that I had made was like an endless runner. It was all made by me. Like I literally like got art from Google, just cut it and used it because I art skills. But it was all done by me, and it got around like 20K downloads on Android, like Google Play.
Got it. How should I start? I'm a complete beginner. I have no idea.
Yeah, so number one thing is YouTube is your friend. So use YouTube as much as you can. There's a ton of like really good videos. In fact, I'm going to link a few here, but in the meantime, like I can keep answering. So one is that, like, one is go on YouTube and find videos on it and just start tinkering with the game engines. Second is like take a formal course, like if there are courses around you, or if you want to do it very seriously, where you're just out of school or like junior college and you want to pursue it like full time, then you can also go for like a degree course, which I don't necessarily recommend because it's not needed at this point. Like there's enough educational material available on the internet to sort of learn from. So Udemy is also a great website where, so the first course that I've taken on Unity was through Udemy. So there's a lot of like beginner friendly courses available. So I'm just going to link a few YouTube channels that you can follow to sort of learn more about
Yep, sure.
programming.
I will forward that in the Discord.
Please do. Yeah, I think these two are like really good to start out with.
Yeah.
And for participating in game jams, this is the link. Like you can find a lot of game jams that are happening around the world, and you can take part like virtually. You can build your own team.
Yep. I've shared the resources in the Discord. Yes. So should I choose no code tools like Buildbox to make a game, or should I have to learn coding, graphics, etc.?
So there's a lot of tools available where you don't have to code necessarily, but it won't give you that level of freedom where you can pretty much do whatever you want. Like if you want to make like a quick game just to try it out, then why not? But in fact, the Unreal offers like Unreal Game Engine offers something called as Blueprints, which is like a drag and drop tool for like, so you literally don't have to code, and there's like a lot of functionality there. So that's something that you can look into if you don't want to code. But if you want to be, if you want to make games seriously, either you learn programming or you get someone to work with you who's a programmer, because it really helps speed things up.
Yeah. Which programming language should I learn? I think we have covered this. You should learn C Sharp, right?
C Sharp. So C
Sharp.
Sharp for Unity and C++ for Unreal.
Hmm. There are some games which are available in offline mode as well, like no need of internet. Then how companies earn from this type of games?
So a lot of like offline games would be if you're talking specifically for mobile games, there's something called as in-app purchases, which like we feel like we don't like people don't pay, but some people who do, right? Like 1% of the people who actually pay, that's enough to sustain the company. So that's in-app purchases is one, and there's a lot of premium games. So offline games, like if you look at PC games, right? There's a lot of story-based games. So those are basically premium games where you just pay upfront some amount and you can buy the game. So that's the kind of business model that's there.
Some resources, please. Guys, we have shared this. It's in message section. There are two YouTube channels and one's the link of Game Jam. What is crypto game and how can I develop them using blockchain?
So crypto game is like literally starting out. I have no idea because I've not worked with it. In fact, the game that I'm working on right now, it's supposed to be converted to crypto later. Essentially, what happens is NFTs, right? Non-fungible tokens. They're using game assets to build NFTs so that people can trade those inside the games. As far as I know, that's pretty much all that's happening in crypto gaming as of now. So people can basically brag about them having like a cooler character, and people can buy it from them if they like it, stuff like that.
So do you think like this thing will have a future or no, there's no future of crypto gaming?
I'm not sure at this point. Like at this point, it's not explored enough, and we can't say for sure.
Yep. Mhm. As now it's a time of metaverse, so all the games will shift to AR and VR. So how to learn these stuff?
So AR and VR are actually part of Unity and Unreal. So I've built VR applications, I've built AR applications using Unity. So what happens is when you think of VR and AR, you're thinking of devices and everything, which seems very different or disconnected from games, right? But it's using the same engine. And what we essentially do is we change the camera. So instead of rendering from one camera, we render from two cameras, and both the outputs are there on the like two different 3D, and then there's gyroscope and everything, which sort of controls the movement of the camera. Similarly with AR, what happens is again it's the trick of the camera, because you basically rendering the like the whatever the camera is seeing, like a phone camera is seeing or the device camera is seeing, and you're rendering stuff on top of it. So it's again very similar. Like once you learn the basics of Unity or Unreal, you can build AR VR applications very easily. It's very transferable.
Hello, are we
Those skills are
connected?
very transferable.
Yep, we are connected. Hello. Can you hear me?
So,
Hello.
Sure.
Yes. Today, lots of network issues happening.
It's no worries.
1 second, please. Actually, my internet there was some problem with my internet. We got disconnected with the stream also. 1 second. Yes, now it's good to go. People,
Yeah.
please continue.
Sorry, was there any other question?
Yeah, actually, I was just yes, there is a question. So, you are saying in engine game engine. What's that? Like, can you explain
Okay.
game engine?
Yeah, for sure. So, it's game engines are basically a tool to make games, right? It's providing you with a lot of like different things that you require to make a game. Like for example, your animation tools or navigation tools, or like a scripting backend where you can code and then the functionality is transferred to the engine. So game engine is basically imagine it as an IDE or your like environment that you use to code, but with more tools, so that you don't have to do things from scratch. Like you don't have to make a rendering engine, you don't have to make like a AI engine and stuff like that. So a lot of things are provided to you.
Got it. Got it. People, if you have any other question, just put it in the message section. Else we will wrap up the session. Yeah, so there is no any other question. Thank you very much for providing. Yep, I will share the LinkedIn link as well. Yep, so that people can connect to you if they have any other question.
Yeah, sounds good. Happy to connect. And if you guys have any other questions, like feel free to just message me. I'm more than happy to help.
Yeah.
So yeah, it was lovely.
Yeah, it was a
talking
lovely
to all of you
session,
guys.
and yeah, you provide a lot of knowledge to our community. Thank you very much
I'm
for
glad.